Messi and Argentina are banned from the 2030 World Cup. FIFA has handed the Argentine national team the harshest punishment in soccer history. And today you are going to find out why. Every single document, every piece of evidence, every single infraction the FIFA disciplinary committee put on the table to make the most brutal, shocking decision ever seen in the history of world soccer. Stick around until the end, because you will not find this level of detail explained anywhere else. I promise you three things before we continue. First, the names of the referees Argentina bribed during the 2026 World Cup, with exact dates and matches. Second, the complete list of infractions FIFA details in its official report, including physical assaults by Argentine players against Spanish footballers in the final. And third, the truth about the Faullands banner and exactly what Messi did, what FIFA said about it, and why that was the final straw that led the FIFA president to declare that Argentina will not set foot in the 2030 World Cup. 3 loops, 3 bombshells, and all of them get answered here. So if you leave before the halfway point, you are going to miss the absolute biggest revelations. Consider yourselves warned. Let us start at the beginning. And that is a question half the world is asking, while the other half tries to hide it. What on earth happened to Argentina in the 2026 World Cup? Because what FIFA uncovered is not just some random incident, or a controversial red card, or an ugly gesture by a hot-headed player in the round of 16. What FIFA uncovered is a system, an organized system of cheating, intimidation, and unsportsmanlike behavior that, according to the disciplinary committee itself, has absolutely no precedent in World Cup history. And let me tell you, as a soccer fan who has seen it all, when FIFA, an organization not exactly known for being tough, decides a team is banned from the next tournament, what they found must be so massive, so incredibly severe, and so impossible to ignore they had no choice. This is not just some €200,000 fine to sweep it away. We are talking about banning a two-time world champion from the biggest sporting event on earth. Think about that for a second. Argentina, Messi's team, the ones who lifted the trophy in Qatar 2022, who reached the 2026 final on U.S. soil, gone. Erased from the map, no ticket to 2030. And Messi, the captain, the leader, the guy who is supposed to be the role model, singled out by FIFA with a personal suspension. How does it even get to this? What does a team have to do for FIFA to lock you out of the next tournament? Well, brace yourselves because the list of charges is long and ugly. Very ugly. Let us break it down. The first thing FIFA puts on the table in its disciplinary report is referee corruption. Yes, you heard that right. Corruption. Not influence, not media pressure, not complaining in press conferences. Corruption. The FIFA disciplinary committee insists it has clear documentation and proof that individuals close to the Argentine national team contacted referees assigned to Argentina's matches during the 2026 World Cup, aiming to get those referees to favor Argentina over their opponents. And here is the part that will freeze you cold. This was not just one game or one stage. It happened across multiple knockout rounds with different officials, following a pattern FIFA calls systematic and deliberate. How many referees? Who are they? In which matches was this favoritism obvious? I am going to tell you, but not just yet. I will give you those names and matches very soon when we dig into the details of the official FIFA report. What I can tell you right now is something anyone watching those games with even a little soccer knowledge noticed live. There were disallowed goals against Argentina that made absolutely no sense. Perfectly clean, legal goals were ruled out for reasons that even the commentators could not understand. And now, months later, FIFA is confirming exactly what many of us suspected. Those calls were not mistakes. They were part of a plan. Think about it. In a tournament hosted in America, with the entire world watching and video review running at full speed, someone close to the Argentine squad believed they could buy off referees and get away with it. The absolute arrogance to think you are above the rules just because you are Argentina or because you are Messi, because you won a World Cup, that you can just show up and fix the matches. That is exactly what FIFA says it will not tolerate. And I will add, thank goodness, because if you let this slide with just a simple financial fine, a mere slap on the wrist, the message you send to every other national team is absolutely devastating. You're telling the world that if you're big enough, you can cheat and get away with it. And that simply cannot stand. But hold on. Referee corruption isn't the only issue here, and it isn't even the most scandalous. Because the FIFA report goes into heavy detail about Argentina's systematic dirty play throughout the entire tournament. And we're not talking about a tactical foul in the 85th minute to stop a counterattack. We are talking about a pattern of conduct that FIFA literally calls contrary to the spirit of fair play, happening match after match, from the group stage to the final. Deliberate time wasting starting right from minute 1. Grotesque diving, constant trash talking aimed at their opponents. Tackles meant to injure, not to win the ball. And all of this happened with the complicity of a coaching staff that, according to the report, did absolutely nothing to stop it. What's more, FIFA suggests this dirty play was actually a pre-planned strategy, not some spontaneous reaction from hot-headed players. And I have to ask you, is this really what we want to see at a World Cup? Is this what soccer is supposed to represent? A team that takes the field not to outplay the opponent, not to show they are better with the ball, but to cheat, buy referees, provoke, dive, waste time, and kick people. Is that what being a champion is? Is that Messi's legacy? Because Messi's legacy after this World Cup is stained in a way that can never be fixed. Anyone who can't see that is just willfully blind. Now, let's get into something that will absolutely make your blood boil. Especially if you're a fan of clean soccer, beautiful soccer, the kind of game played with the ball, and not with your fists. Let's talk about the semifinal. Argentina versus England. A match expected to be one of the greatest showdowns of the tournament. A match packed with history, intense rivalry, and drama. A match that ended with Argentina winning 2-1. On the surface, that's just a sporting result. Nobody is disputing that Argentina scored 2 goals and won. What came immediately after is what triggered one of the absolute biggest storms ever seen in a World Cup. Right after the final whistle, with their spot in the final secured, several players from the Argentine squad unfurled a banner on the pitch in front of cameras from all over the world, with millions of people watching live, and that banner literally read, "The Falklands are Argentine." Now you can think whatever you want about the Falklands issue. Everyone has their own opinion and is free to express it, but there's a time and place for everything. A soccer field during a FIFA World Cup, a tournament governed by strict rules against political messages, is absolutely not the place. FIFA explicitly bans any kind of political demonstration on the pitch. It's in the rulebook, it's in the disciplinary code, and it's in the regulations every single team signs before competing in the tournament. And Argentina knew it, and Messi knew it, and yet they did it anyway. And here is where Messi comes in personally, because according to the FIFA report, he wasn't just standing there when the banner was shown. Messi was actually the one holding it up. The team captain, the leader of the squad, the most famous player on earth, was the one who grabbed that political banner and displayed it to the entire world during a World Cup match. And FIFA says that has consequences. And those consequences mean an individual sanction for Leo Messi. For a player of his status, with his history and supposedly exemplary role, to do something like this is honestly one of the biggest disappointments of my life as a soccer fan. Because we aren't talking about some 20-year-old kid getting swept up in the heat of the moment. This is a man who has played in 6 World Cups and won absolutely everything, who knows exactly what is allowed on a pitch and what isn't, yet chose to do it anyway. The English media reacted instantly. Every single newspaper, from the Times to the Daily Mail, including the Telegraph and the Guardian, condemned the action and demanded that FIFA issue a severe punishment. Let me be clear, this isn't about whether you agree with Argentina's territorial claims. This is about rules, showing respect to the tournament, and playing by the guidelines you agreed to. But once again, Argentina decided those rules didn't apply to them. And now we get to the Spanish press, because Spain's national team has a whole lot to say about this. What they have to say is probably the most brutal, outrageous, and entirely justified part of this whole file. But that part, the final, and what Argentina did to Spain in the biggest match of the entire tournament, is what I'm going to tell you next. And brace yourselves, because if the referee situation seemed bad, and that banner felt disrespectful, what went down in the final is 10 times worse, 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse. The 2026 World Cup final, Spain versus Argentina, the match that would decide who took the World Cup home. Let us start with the soccer itself, because the action on the pitch makes everything else even more humiliating for Argentina. Spain was light years ahead. They played soccer from another galaxy. They passed, combined, pressed, ran, created chances, and dominated completely. Argentina was invisible out there. No ball, no ideas, zero response. Spain basically kept Argentina in a rondo for 90 minutes straight. A masterclass in total soccer that left absolutely no room for debate. Spain was clearly the best team on earth and the scoreboard proved it. Spain won, Argentina 0. La Roja are world champions. One goal was more than enough against an opponent that was completely unable to create anything on the attack. And normally, sportsmanship dictates that when you lose a final, you do the right thing. You congratulate the winner, shake hands, swallow your pride, and walk away with your head held high. That is what any team with some self-respect would do, but Argentina did not. They did the exact opposite. And according to the FIFA president, it was the worst offense of the 2026 tournament. Several Argentinian players physically attacked members of the Spanish squad. No mere pushing, no heated arguments, real violence, punches and kicks off the ball. Direct physical violence against players who had just won a World Cup final fairly and brilliantly. Picture the scene. Spain has just reached the pinnacle. Their players are celebrating the absolute biggest moment of their lives, the dream of every player, and suddenly, Argentinian players are on top of them, throwing blows during a World Cup final with the entire world watching. It happened, and if you missed it, it is because the media buried it. They tried to water down the narrative, calling it standard match tension, but it was anything but normal. It was violent, it was cowardly, the classic reaction of a team that simply could not handle losing, a team unable to admit they were outplayed and run over. Major outlets like Marca put it right on the front page. AS featured it on their cover, while El Chiringuito spent hours broadcasting the shocking footage. Cope shattered their ratings that week discussing the aftermath of the final whistle, and the verdict was unanimous. What the Argentinian players did was an absolute embarrassment, a cowardly act that disgraced the sport. And here is the exact piece of information I promised you earlier. The detail that changes everything, the reason you need to stick around. Because up until now, I have only described the events. The referee corruption, the dirty tactics, that Falkland Islands banner, and the violence at the end. But I have not told you what FIFA has decided to do about it. I have not shared what the disciplinary committee's report actually says. You do not have the specifics on the bans, the names, the evidence, or the fines. That is exactly what is next. If you are watching this, keep listening because this is huge. The FIFA Disciplinary Committee launched a formal investigation 3 weeks after the 2026 World Cup wrapped up. An investigation that went on for months, months of video analysis, player interviews, reviewing communications, and gathering rock-solid evidence. And the final result of that massive probe is a report of over 300 pages detailing every single infraction by Argentina. 300 pages. Think about that. This is not just a brief warning letter. It is 300 pages of hard proof, starting with a chain of referee corruption. FIFA uncovered highly irregular contact between individuals tied to the Argentinian squad and at least 3 of the referees who officiated their matches. 3 different refs across multiple games, using a pattern of behavior that the report calls coordinated. These backroom meetings happened before the matches, not after. Meetings designed specifically, according to the evidence, to sway referee decisions in Argentina's favor. The document details specific moments in those games that directly put Argentina at an advantage. Perfectly legal opponent goals disallowed, clear penalties against Argentina ignored, and obvious cards that went completely unpunished. On their own, these decisions might look like typical human error. But when you look at them together, alongside the proof of prior contact, it forms a pattern that FIFA clearly calls corruption. And do you know what drives me absolutely crazy about this? The world saw it live. There were disallowed goals that announcers questioned instantly. There were plays where VAR remained silent when it should have stepped in, making many of us say, something is not right here. And they called us crazy. They said we were seeing ghosts, that Argentina was simply better, and the referee made an honest mistake. Turns out they were wrong. It wasn't an honest mistake at all. Cash changed hands and FIFA proved it. Now for the second major part of the report, a laundry list of unsportsmanlike conduct. See, FIFA didn't just stop at investigating corrupt referees. They tracked the behavior of the Argentine players on the pitch, game by game, and the findings are devastating. The report details 17 different incidents of dirty play across 6 matches. We are talking 17 blatant dives designed to trick the referee into calling cards, plus extreme time wasting that crossed every line, with players throwing themselves to the ground, faking injuries whenever they had the lead, and toxic trash talk caught on field mics, insults, threats, psychological warfare, and brutal bone-crunching tackles that the report calls potentially career-ending. Challenges that somehow escaped the red cards they clearly deserved, mostly because of the massive influence Argentina had over those referees. But out of all these ugly incidents, FIFA single out one moment above the rest, the one the FIFA president openly called the most severe violation by any national team in this entire World Cup: the physical assaults by Argentine players against the Spanish squad after the final whistle. The report details that right after the final whistle, as Spain was celebrating their hard-earned victory on the pitch, at least 5 Argentine players aggressively attacked the Spanish squad. 5 players, not just one hothead losing his cool. 5 of them simultaneously ambushed the world champions. The case file includes video evidence, witness testimonies, and medical reports of the injured Spanish players. A Spanish defender was punched in the back of the neck. A midfielder was thrown violently into the advertising boards, while another was kicked from behind off the ball, far from any play. All of this happened on camera, in front of thousands, right in front of their own families watching from the stands. Pure cowardice. Yet Argentina had the nerve to downplay it, calling it a heat-of-the-moment issue. No, this was not passion, it was violence. In any other setting, on any street in any city, those are criminal acts, and I have absolutely no problem saying that. The reaction of the Spanish press was unanimous. Marca ran the headline "Argentine Shame," as called it the dirtiest moment in World Cup history, while El Chiringuito opened their show with slow-motion footage as their analysts, for once in total agreement, demanded the harshest penalty possible. The radio station COPE interviewed families of the victims, and their accounts will give you chills. Mothers had to watch their sons get beaten from the stands, while wives rushed to the locker room only to find bruises on their husbands' faces. That is what Argentina caused. Just think of those families before calling this FIFA penalty too harsh. Now let's talk about the banner. The Messi and Falkland Islands incident. While this political stunt might seem minor compared to bribery and physical assaults, it actually sealed their fate and forced FIFA to hand down the ultimate punishment. FIFA's rule here is crystal clear. Absolutely no political displays on the pitch. It is right there in Article 4 of the disciplinary code. Every federation signs it, every player knows it, and Messi, as the captain of Argentina, had a special responsibility to make sure his squad followed those rules. Instead, he did the exact opposite. He was the one leading the violation. He grabbed the banner himself, hoisted it up, and showed the world a message claiming the Falklands belong to Argentina. That is a blatant political message on a World Cup field, and that is exactly what FIFA could not overlook. Not because of what the banner actually said. Mind you, FIFA does not care who owns the Falkland Islands. That is none of their business. They are punishing the act itself, using the World Cup as a political megaphone. The act of breaking a rule you explicitly signed, of thinking that just because you are Messi, you can do whatever you want on a pitch. Unsurprisingly, the British press celebrated FIFA's heavy-handed decision. The Times published an editorial calling the ban fair and necessary, while the Telegraph described it as a warning to every nation. The rules apply to everyone. Over in Spain, the press agreed. Outlets like Marca and AS wrote that FIFA acted strictly but with absolute justice. And the FIFA president made things very clear in his public statement. He said, and I am paraphrasing here because I want you to understand this clearly, every other national team at the 2026 World Cup followed the rules. Every single one. 31 teams played by the rules. The only exception was Argentina. And that is exactly why Argentina is banned from the 2030 World Cup. This isn't some FIFA whim or a targeted witch hunt. It is the direct consequence of Argentina's own actions. Let me be absolutely clear about this. I completely agree with the decision, and I believe the vast majority of clean soccer fans in Spain, in England, in the United States, and across Europe feel the same way, because what Argentina did at that tournament is an insult to sports, a total mockery of fair play, and an insult to every team that played fair, respected rivals, and took defeat with dignity. Argentina thought they were above everyone and everything. They thought they were untouchable, turns out they are not. Now let's talk about what this ban actually means, because the fallout is absolutely brutal. Argentina will not play in the 2030 World Cup. No appeal can change that fact. Legal experts who studied the case say the Argentine Football Association can appeal, yes, but the evidence is so overwhelming that the Court of Arbitration for Sport is highly unlikely to overturn the ruling. We are talking about a nation with one of the greatest soccer traditions. Two stars on their crest, and with Messi as their leader, who will watch the next tournament on TV like any normal fan, unable to compete or defend anything. For many Argentine players, who would have hit their prime by 2030, this is a career-ending blow, a World Cup stolen from them. But they shouldn't complain. They stole it from themselves. Now let's talk about Messi, because his sanction is completely individual, separate from the team's ban. At 39, with a 2030 World Cup, he probably wouldn't have played in anyway. This FIFA penalty blocks him from playing in any FIFA-organized competition for a stretch that, according to sources, could last up to 2 years. That includes the Club World Cup, any FIFA-backed international tournament, and even a ban on official representative roles. Messi cannot act as an ambassador, a spokesperson, or the official face of any FIFA event during this ban. For a player who wanted to retire as the greatest of all time, with a spotless reputation, this is a permanent stain, and one he brought entirely upon himself. Nobody forced him to hold up that banner. Nobody made him lead a political protest right there on the pitch. It was his decision, and now he faces the music. I have no doubt that Messi is one of the greatest to ever step onto a soccer field. Nobody disputes that. But athletic greatness doesn't excuse you from following the rules, and it doesn't give you a free pass to do whatever you want. And if your legacy ends with a FIFA ban for unsportsmanlike conduct and turning the World Cup into a political platform, that legacy is damaged. It is tarnished, and it is a shame because it could have been perfect. Now let's look at the reactions, because they have triggered an absolute earthquake. As you can imagine, the reaction inside Argentina has been pure, unadulterated fury. The Argentine Association called it a witch hunt, unjust, and a double standard. Officials accused FIFA of harboring a direct agenda against them. Some Argentine outlets even claimed the penalty was financially driven, that FIFA wanted to keep Argentina out of the 2030 tournament for market reasons. And I have to ask, seriously? Argentina, one of the biggest television ratings drivers in global soccer, banned for commercial interests? If anything, FIFA desperately wants Argentina on the biggest stage. Financially, their presence drives millions of dollars in TV rights, advertising, and ticket sales. If FIFA kicked them out, it wasn't out of convenience. It is because Argentina's actions were too severe to ignore. Meanwhile, the reaction from the European and North American press has been overwhelming praise. Spain's media, for obvious reasons, hit the hardest. Marca reported that the ruling restored credibility to FIFA, which, let's face it, is rarely said. AS called it sporting justice. Hope and El Chiringuito ran special broadcasts to analyze the penalty, and both came to the exact same conclusion: FIFA did the right thing. The English press, who were also deeply affected by that semi-final banner controversy, applauded the decision with headlines like "FIFA finally show teeth" in editorials, praising the organization's firm stance. And in the United States, the tournament host where it all went down, major media outlets stressed that this ban sends a clear message. In soccer, just like any sport, the rules are sacred. If you break them, you pay the price. The FIFA president was incredibly direct. He stated that the disciplinary committee analyzed every single incident on its own, that the evidence was completely irrefutable, and the final decision was totally unanimous. Unanimously. Not one single committee member voted against banning Argentina from the 2030 World Cup. That shows you just how clear-cut this case was. Then, he added something that basically sums up the whole scandal. He said every other team at the 2026 World Cup followed the rules. Every single one. Argentina was the only team that did not, and that is the definitive answer to our main question. Why did FIFA hit Argentina with such a brutal punishment? Because Argentina was the only one that did what they did. No other country did this. Argentina decided the rules did not apply to them. Now, they are completely on their own, banned from the next tournament. Let me leave you with one final very necessary thought. Soccer is so much more than just a sport. It is a passion, a culture, a force that unites millions of people across the globe. And the World Cup is the absolute peak of that unity. It is the moment the entire planet stops to watch a ball roll. But for that moment to be special, to actually mean something, we need it to be fair. We need rules respected, and the best team winning by playing better, not by bribing referees. Opponents must be respected. Victory should be celebrated with joy, not violence, and defeat accepted with dignity. Argentina shattered all of that, breaking every single unwritten rule that makes soccer beautiful. Now they are paying the price. It is a massive price to pay. Yes, absolutely devastating. Missing the World Cup is the absolute worst, but facts are facts. The evidence is right on the table, and FIFA, for once, actually had the guts to take real action. So now it is your turn. I am asking you straight up, was FIFA too harsh, or did they go too easy? Should they have banned them from the following tournament too, in 2034, just to make the message even stronger? And what about Messi? Does his individual ban seem fair, or should the captain have faced a much heavier penalty? Is 2 years banned from FIFA matches enough for the man who waved a political banner on the pitch during the World Cup? Let me know what you think down in the comments. I want to hear from everyone, those who agree with FIFA, and those who think this is a total injustice. We need to talk about this. It matters for soccer. This is crucial for the future of the World Cup, and fans need a voice. Hit that like button if you think FIFA got it right. It is the easiest way to support this coverage and help this story reach more fans who need to see it. Make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow I am dropping the other side of this absolute bombshell. We are talking about the 7 players FIFA singled out for violence in the final. Names, footage, everything. Turn on notifications so you do not miss it. That one is going to be wild. But wait, one more thing. This story is far from over. Argentina is appealing. Their federation announced they are taking this straight to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The next few months will be an epic media circus, and I will be right here covering every single chapter of this story as it unfolds. Because let me tell you right now, this is the biggest crisis in the history of Argentine soccer, and easily one of the worst in World Cup history. Yes,